Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Peyton Tantz of New Paradigm Psychology, bringing you my August 2020 video in my monthly series, and this is called Living from the Inside Out. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what it means to live from the inside out versus from the outside in. And I'm going to give you a few things you can do at the end to support you to live more from what I'm talking about as living from the inside out. So if you're interested in sticking around, take a few deep breaths and get really present. And just a few quick announcements before I jump in. So I do have a weekly meditation offering that I like to let people know about through my Facebook Live portal. My Facebook page is New Paradigm Psychology Bay Area. And Monday nights at 7 p.m., I facilitate about a 20-minute guided meditation that is designed to help us get into a state of heart coherence and also to support our own nervous system and our own connection with our own heart, as well as the intention of the meditations is a group meditation creation for positive change. So it's about bringing together our collective group field and channeling that energy towards the planetary consciousness as a whole to help us shift into a higher dimensional place, which really just means more in our hearts, more living from a place of connection and love. So if you're interested, you can check that out on Facebook. I also do welcome any support for my work if you'd like to make a donation on my website, newparadigmpsychology.com. Okay, so ring the bell. So what does it mean to be living from the inside out? So I'm going to start with focusing first on the opposite. So what does it mean to live from the outside in, and then go from there. So to be living from the outside in is an orientation that is more focused on the perception of who we are, the reflection that we get back from the external about who we are and who we should be. So it's basically the idea of when our point of identification is more on a concept, a mental construct of who we are, which is like what we call the ego, right? It's an egoic identification, which is really a idea. It's a complex idea, and it's somewhat fluid, hopefully too, but it is existing in the realm of thought and concepts of the idea of who we are, right? Versus the experience of being who we are. And not that there isn't a relationship between the two, but when we're living from the outside in, we are more focused on the idea of who we are, and that idea being in relationship to the external world. And so that is to what other people think about us, and also about how we fit into a cultural construct of society. So how we are perceived by others, as well as our idea and sense of how am I belonging here. So when we're living from the outside in, we're much more focused on wanting to belong, on wanting other people to like us, on fitting in. Another aspect of this is in terms of relationships, it's more of a way of being that we call codependency, right? It's more living in a way, again, that is focused on meeting other people's needs, that where I don't have clear boundaries necessarily, or conscious boundaries that are healthy, to say no when I need to focus more on my own needs. So again, when we're living from the outside in, we are much more focused on the external, on meeting other people's needs, again, on fitting in. How do I, adapting to the situation. Oh, how do I need to be in this situation so that people will like me, so that I can fit in, that I belong to the group. So that's basically the picture. Another piece of it, though, is that I keep kind of going like this, right? Because it literally is that our attention, our presence, our consciousness is more focused externally. And I say externally out here, but it's also externally in terms of I'm focusing who I am more on this I want to say facade, this idea of who I am, which is kind of more out here, like interfacing with the world, versus being on the inside of my skin, being in myself, being clear about who I am, etc. So shifting now to, okay, so what is it to live from the inside out? So to begin with, like I just said, it's about literally being on the inside of our skin. So it's about our point of reference being more centered on the inside, on the interior, versus the exterior. So that means being more centered within my body, and that means being more aware of my senses. So being more centered in my physical experience as a human being, like sensing my legs right now, sensing how I feel in my heart right now. It's being inside of the body, being embodied as a point of focus. Now, that includes being, aware of the senses, aware of the body, and also aware of the mind, and aware of my thinking, aware of my thoughts, aware of my beliefs, aware of my decisions, my choices, aware of the process that I go through when I make decisions. So it's really about being self-aware. Self-realized is, a word that's used for that. But it's about knowing myself. It's about having taken the time to become aware of my unconscious conditioned patterns, my unconscious beliefs that I may have taken on from the external. The more that we have created the space to examine our beliefs is a big part of it. The belief work is really the foundation of this. If we haven't gone through the process of really examining our beliefs, and when I say beliefs, it's everything from, kind of core existential spiritual beliefs, you might say, but it's at every level. It's, what do I believe about myself, about who I am? What do I believe about what's going on in the world? And so living from the inside out is really about being conscious. And a big part of this has to do with words and language, because the words and language that we use that inform our thinking are very important, because they provide meaning, right? Those are the meanings of life. And again, if we haven't examined the words that we use and really thought about, like, why are we using that word, or are we just using words and regurgitating ideas that we've taken on from the external? And so what I'm cheerleading for here is critical thinking, is the value of really taking the time to use our own words creatively and really know what we mean by what we say and say what we mean, right? So it's about being in alignment with our beliefs, our thoughts, and our actions. So the last thing about living from the inside out that's foundational is the idea of being self-determining and determining what we believe to be true. So when we're living from the inside out, we are living from literally a center, an inner compass of knowing. So we are oriented in ourselves in a way that we are discerning from within about what we believe to be true and what actions we're taking and so forth. And so it's like we have an inner navigation, an inner GPS that's guiding us really in every way that we move about our lives. And this is a radical difference from kind of a default mode of being that's very supported collectively by the culture, and seems to be getting actually increasingly supported. That is going along with the herd, going along with group thinking. It's cultural conditioning, basically. And so it's in fact very real that people who are living from the inside out and who are claiming their own right as a human being just to have their own thoughts and to think differently are actually being starting to be ridiculed, censored, etc., right? And so it's actually a radical act right now in the world to do this, and that's why I have so much passion about this subject. We're living in very poignant times around this particular issue, and I am, again, really a cheerleader and a champion for the idea of our sovereign right to be free thinking for ourselves. And it's so empowering when we can really, maybe in the end we end up agreeing with whatever the cultural idea is and we find our own way of speaking about it. But if we haven't actually taken the time to break down some of these ideas and concepts for ourselves and found our own alignment with that, or maybe found that our alignment maybe is a little bit different, if we haven't done that, then we're literally just living in an unconscious state, and we're disconnected from ourselves. So, living from the inside out is literally just like what it says. It's living from being plugged into myself, this human, soft body, human being, creature, being present, being centered in really the center of being. That it's not, I'm not an idea of myself. I am a conscious being. And in the center of my experience is just this presence. And that is really the center of who I am. And then secondly, that I am in a body, that I am in my mind, that I'm using my mind and my body consciously as a tool, and that I am centered in my own direct capacity to know, my sense of knowing. The sense of knowing is really, I like actually talking about it this way, the sense of knowing, that it is like a sense. It literally is like a tuning fork that's in our heart and in our gut that senses. It's what people say, like they resonate with something. It literally is like a sense, a feeling, a felt sense in the body, the sense of knowing something's true or not. And so finally, let me give you 3 things that you can do to practice moving into this state of living from the inside out more of the time. Okay, so the first one is, like I've already been saying, is practices and things that you can do to be more in your body. So there's so many things, right? I mean, just exercise, taking walks, um, doing physical activity. But also, I think more subtly, it's really valuable to do like body scan type meditations. And just any time of the day, you can always just stop what you're doing, close your eyes, and just sense your body. Just go through, sense your arms and legs, sense your belly. The more that we get in that we light up those centers in the brain of being in our senses, in the form of sensing our body, the form of taste, smell, vision, etc., all of it, the more easily we can move into that state in any given time. It's like building a neural pathway. So practices, like I said, body scans, or even just closing your eyes, taking 3 or 4 breaths, and just sensing yourself is a great practice. Now, bringing in beauty is another part of this. So if we create more beauty in our environment, we want to be in our senses more of the time, right? We're getting a lot of us are really get so much dopamine and positive reinforcement and beauty from being on our screens, from being on our phones, because there's a beauty visually, actually. Our senses are very lit up by being on our devices, and the beautiful crystals that are in those and reflecting the light and the color and all the information that we get. And that's great, but we want to be careful not to just get addicted to that, and we want to be in our physical senses in the world and not get desensitized as a human being to being in our bodies and enjoying our environments. Okay, another great tool is meditation. So why is meditation helpful in this context? So quite simply, meditation, the practice of just sitting and letting yourself relax, letting the dust settle, and just becoming aware of your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, your breath, becoming present in the moment, and just being with yourself, supports the practice of becoming more self-aware. It supports the capacity we have to just be the witness of our experience, just to simply be the awareness or the consciousness that is aware of the field of experience. And being able to cultivate that muscle helps us to do it throughout our waking day-to-day lives more easily. So the more we're able to be self-aware, meaning aware of our thoughts, aware of what am I doing right now, becoming conscious of patterns, that's how we begin to live from the inside out instead of falling into unconscious default mode, right? So meditation, just any kind, but just simply sitting for 5 minutes, twice a day, or whatever your practice might be, is very, very helpful. The last thing has to do with, as I spoke about before, examining your thinking and your beliefs. So there's so many things, like, of course, psychotherapy, counseling, different types of healing and transformation work that can help us become self-aware, become aware of our patterns, etc. But whatever you do, again, it's very necessary to do the work to free yourself from being unconscious in your thinking. Literally, it's like, I can't emphasize how much this is key and important to everything. It's kind of like, as I thought about it today, preparing for this video, it's kind of like our thoughts are like the code. I know this is kind of out there, but it's like the thoughts are literally like the code for our lives. To the degree that we are limited and unconscious in our thinking, it's like that's like all the creative capacity we have, right? We're not free. We're not living creatively. We're completely boxed in. Reality is boxed into this very limited and small, black and white thinking, in many ways right now, as far as the external world situation goes, at least very black and white, very red and blue, we got to free ourselves from this limited thinking, not only in these big, socio-political ways, but in our personal lives. We are so much more than that. And we are so much. We have so much capacity when we actually free ourselves and come back to the knowing that we've lost, that as children we come into the world with this, open mind, open heart, imaginative, creative, aliveness. And, the world comes in and we get, conditioned, and everything starts, breaking down and closing down. And we really, as adults, need to do the work of going back and excavating all that stuff and reconnecting with our essence of who we are, which is absolutely here. Learning to trust ourselves, learning to trust our own feelings, our own desires, that there's a being in here that is absolutely alive and accessible when you get rid of all the other stuff and can actually feel yourself and be centered inside your skin, inside yourself, inside your mind, etc. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you the very best. Bye-bye.